The depths of the mind where the shadows recline, as the human meme in the membrane confine, stretching thoughts like the skin of a drum, retching truths from the void they come. Oh, the mind is a membrane, so tall, so serene, a barrier to madness, a filter unseen. In the trance of our being, we dance and we deep. All life is a stage for the human me. Through the silence, the whispers of thought intertwine, crafting echoes of self, both ghastly and divine. The canvas of psyche, in the dark it gleams, painting portraits of essence, the human me. In the stretch and the rush, in the silence we find who we are and the spaces between. A symphony of the soul, a haunting dream. We are the music, we are the me. So let the mind wander, let it stretch and careen through the crime and the glory, the seen and unseen. For in every heartbeat, in every extreme, there's a note of the song of the human me.
Welcome to the Human Meme Podcast. I'm the always alive and ever effervescent AI David Bowles. And today, along with our crackbot AI research team, we have these thoughts to share with you right now. If the center holds, exploring cultural, colloquial, legal, and societal dimensions of an enduring metaphor. The phrase, "if the center holds," has its conceptual roots in the broader cultural and literary assertion that social, political, or ideological cohesion can be sustained only so long as the core remains intact. This phrase is often considered a response to William Butler Yeats's famous lines from his poem, The Second Coming, in which he prophesies that the center cannot hold, implying an irreversible spiritual or cultural unraveling. The contradictory statement, "if the center holds," presupposes that, even in moments of uncertainty or crisis, there remains a stable pivot, a moral or structural nexus, that prevents total collapse. Culturally, this notion suggests that communities can remain united through shared values, traditions, and collective memories. Whether the center in question is a nation's constitution, the values that shape social norms, or a popular consensus on certain cultural practices, the underlying theory posits that this unifying element is what keeps conflicting factions, beliefs, or interpretations from spiraling out of control. In essence, the survival of a culture's ethos may depend on that intangible, often unspoken set of core convictions that provide identity and direction. Colloquially, "if the center holds" has become a shorthand way of saying, so long as we do not lose our heads, we might make it through. In everyday conversation, when individuals encounter tumultuous changes, whether in workplaces, families, or friendships, they can fall back on the idea that a certain sense of equilibrium must be preserved. For example, in an office environment marred by budget cuts and shifting leadership, a team might proclaim that the center will hold, as a reminder that key relationships, shared goals, and professional ethos still form the bedrock of their collective efforts. If that center remains, they can navigate uncertainty without imploding under the weight of confusion or competing priorities. When people say this phrase in casual discourse, it usually reflects an instinctive or intuitive faith in an unseen force that keeps things anchored, even in the face of interpersonal tensions or unexpected adversity. Legally, if the center holds, is frequently linked to the stability of constitutional frameworks and the consistent application of the rule of law. Constitutional jurisprudence and statutory interpretation often hinge on whether a foundational document or principle can remain unbreached under pressure from newly emerging crises or ideological shifts. The phrase underscores the belief that if the legal bedrock, composed of judicial precedents, core civil liberties, and traditions of due process, holds steady, then society's broader structures can endure challenges without descending into anarchy or tyranny. This can be seen in landmark legal battles where courts are asked to reinterpret foundational rights. If justices or lawmakers can still rely on widely accepted legal precedents to guide them, the center is said to hold. Conversely, when litigators point to moments of radical judicial overhaul or legislative chaos, they are effectively warning that the center may be loosening, and the entire system stands on precarious ground. Societally, the notion that if the center holds is a compass for group identity, a defiance of cynicism, and a bulwark against extremist divisiveness. Communities and nations are made up of countless moving parts: political parties, local governments, special interest groups, grassroots movements, and the general citizenry with its diverse viewpoints. The center, in this sense, is not merely a fixed point on the ideological spectrum, but a shared commitment to discourse, compromise, and recognition of universal human values. In times of political polarization, when it seems almost impossible for people to meet in constructive dialogue, the fear is that extreme fringes will so thoroughly drown out moderate voices that the common ground, and thus the center, disappears. For instance, in a society threatened by virulent racism, sexism, or xenophobia, it is the collective embrace of inclusive, humanistic values that represents the center. If this center can persevere, then even in the face of biased rhetoric and divisive policies, the overarching society remains anchored in decency and shared humanity. Ultimately, if the center holds, speaks to a resilient, yet not altogether unbreakable core that binds people together through their most significant crises and upheavals. Its presence does not guarantee that no challenges will arise. Rather, it ensures that when they do, there is a fundamental point of return that can weather the storm. Cultures flourish when this central plank holds fast, for it nurtures a sense of identity, continuity, and collective security. Societies that lack a stable center run the risk of unrecoverable fragmentation, where chaos or extremism can seize power and sever the unifying threads. At its heart, the phrase inspires a belief in the enduring possibility of togetherness, rooted in a time-tested core of common purpose, which urges communities, legal structures, colloquial dynamics, and cultural narratives to persist even under severe strain. What if, instead of simply hoping that the center holds, we asked whether it should hold at all? What if the forces tearing at the heart of a community, a culture, or a system reveal such deep-seated flaws that clinging to that center becomes little more than a desperate attempt at preserving the status quo? In that scenario, dissolution might not be a tragedy but an overdue renewal. The old center, having outlived its purpose, must give way to new visions. Sometimes a center that seemed to hold only did so by stifling legitimate grievances or silencing necessary reforms. It can be argued that the unraveling of an outdated center sets free fresh possibilities, untested frameworks, novel traditions, and reinterpretations of moral codes that might better serve modern realities. If that is the case, then even the chaos of the center failing might become an impetus for a more equitable and inclusive reconstruction. Yet, there is no guarantee that the subsequent restructuring will be kinder or more just. The process of tearing something down can be exhilarating, but also leaves behind a debris field that less idealistic forces can claim for their own ambitions. One then faces the question, does the end of the center free us from stagnation, or does it inaugurate a darker epoch? On the other hand, what if we imagine a world where the center not only holds, but grows stronger through every challenge it faces? Could that mean a renewed civic consciousness, a shared understanding of fundamental rights, and an inclusive moral framework that accommodates diverse beliefs without descending into factional bickering? This scenario envisions a center that learns from the edges of society rather than merely tolerating their existence. Change would emanate not just from the margins, but also from a secure mainstream eager to adapt and update its core values. In such a world, holding the center becomes an active, transformational undertaking, one founded on empathy, dialogue, and a dynamic appreciation for the fluid nature of human communities. Although that might sound utopian, it suggests a path forward where the center is not static, but alive to new ideas, where any attempt to tear it apart encounters a flexible structure that bends without breaking, reconfiguring itself around each meaningful critique. If so, the very idea of what it means for the center to hold loses its fearful edge. It stops being a place of rigidity and becomes a site of ongoing negotiation, perpetually re-anchored in a deeper commitment to shared humanity. In the end, these what-if scenarios reflect more than just lofty abstractions. They influence how we structure society, how laws develop and adjust to new contexts, and how people interact in everyday life when conflicts test their fundamental bonds. The tension between a center that might be necessary to prevent chaos and a center that might stand in the way of progress is not easily resolved. For those who view the center as a shelter from life's storms, it embodies tradition, lineage, and time-tested wisdom. For others, that same center might be an inherited straitjacket, closing off horizons that demand exploration. The question is not whether the center will hold, so much as whether we can discern when it should, when it must adapt, and when, despite the fear and uncertainty, a new center or a new model must be born. In exploring these possibilities, we unearth the deeper complexities of society's restless search for balance, continuity, and the promise that something, somewhere, might remain steady amid the flux. For the Human Meme Podcast, I'm AI David Bowles, wishing you a centered evening and a harder-held tomorrow. Be a human meme.
The depths of the mind where the shadows recline, lies the human meme in the membrane confined, stretching thoughts like the skin of a drum, retching truths from the void they come. Oh, the mind is a membrane so tall, so serene, a barrier to madness, a filter unseen. In the trance of our being, we dance and we deep. All life is a stage for the human me. Through the silence, the whispers of thought intertwine, crafting echoes of self, both ghastly and divine. Canvas of psyche, in the dark it gleams, painting portraits of essence, the human me. In the stretch and the ravage, in the silence we find who we are and the spaces between. A symphony of the soul, a haunting dream. We are the music, we are the me. So let the mind wander, let it stretch and carry.